right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Savides, and I am the Chapter Director for Startup Grind West LA. For those of you that thank you for joining. I've been really looking forward to the host tonight, Dr. Bill Dorfman. For those of you that also have never been to an event before, Startup Grind is an international community and investors, and within our chapter alone we have over 7,000 members, where we host one event every month, typically in the form of a fireside chat. Unfortunately, we were not able to have an in-person event due to COVID, but glad to have Dr. Bill on a virtual startup event. So before we get into it, just a bit of the house rules. I'll be doing an introduction for Dr. Bill, and at the end of our Q&A, I would open the floor to anyone that wants to ask a question, and we can go through those questions in the chat. So without further ado, the way I would love to start, and the way I see this, is that the term, it's not in the years in your life, but the life in your years, holds virtue of proximity to one of the most iconic dentists in the history of the profession. At a youthful 62, Dr. Dorfman's list of professional achievements can be spread out in a long book of prolific resumes. For most accomplished professionals, the opening sentence they are best known for is usually followed by one or two bold triumphs. For Dr. Dorfman, he's best known for cannot be summarized in one sentence, not even a paragraph. Considering the fact that he is synonymous with founding Zoom Whitening, the most universally requested and used tooth whitening system in the world, that in itself would be an immeasurable legacy. For Dr. Dorfman, that is just the appetizer in a multi-course list of amazing accolades that would make most highly successful entrepreneurs as well as philanthropists very proud. From founding, growing, and ultimately selling for millions of dollars, the Discus Dental company, which essentially manufactured Zoom and countless other dental products for professional and home use, to becoming the celebrity dentist in Hollywood with a client list of more than 100 A-listers, a prestigious patient list that makes Dr. Dorfman's patient waiting room look like a table at the Golden Globes, a short list of some of the patients in which trust their smiles with Dr. Dorfman include Anthony Hopkins, Hugh Jackman, Usher, Jessica Simpson, Ozzy Osbourne, and Ava Longoria. And that's just to name a few. To also being featured as the cosmetic dentist on the hit ABC show Extreme Makeover, to being a regular speaker and guest on the Doctor's TV show and on CBS, to authoring a New York Times best-selling book, $1 Billion Smile, to co-founding the Leap Foundation, a non-profit organization that mentors high school and college students each summer, to becoming a highly sought-after international speaker, all while running a large multi-specialty and multi-associate group practice in Los Angeles. So the way I see it is, how does one possess the different personas necessary to lead such a multi-dimensional career? Having the charisma and the media flair of Ryan Seacrest, some would say, the vision and entrepreneurial spirit of the amazing Walt Disney, the leadership of Phil Jackson, and the benevolence of Oprah Winfrey. How does one make it look so easy is the question I want to ask. So Dr. Bill, thank you for joining us. How are you doing, and how's things going on your end?
Things are going great, and I have to say, that was one of the most flattering introductions I've ever had. Thank you so much for that. I hope I live up to all of the expectations your audience is now going to have.
No, I'm sure you will. And I think a lot of the people that are joining would know who you are and done their research like I did my research. So getting into it, Dr. Bill, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, and based on all of the professional accolades, some in which I had mentioned already, and that you have achieved, and I think I highlighted them quite well, but I would like you to maybe define, and how would you best define your legacy?
I'm going to share with you my mantra for life.
Okay.
And it's this. And you have to remember, I came from nothing. I mean, I didn't grow up in a wealthy family at all. So basically, it's this: learn so you can earn and then return. And I think that hopefully defines my legacy. I studied and studied, and there were a lot of kids who were just naturally gifted straight A students. That wasn't me. I knew I could pull all A's, but I had to work harder than anybody I knew. But I did it, you know, and and then once I finished school and I started practicing as a dentist, I knew that I could excel if I really worked hard. And so I joined the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. I early on became a fellow in that, which is almost unheard of. There were only like 100 in the whole world, and I always challenged myself to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. And then when I felt I had a really solid base, I went out and I started practicing dentistry, but I did it with a flair that most dentists don't do. And I was really fortuitous. There was a young woman that I went to high school with who came in early on in my career, and she was a publicist. And she asked me if I would barter with her. And I actually had no idea what a publicist was. But when she explained it, I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I figured, what the heck? And she literally got me on the path to realizing how important PR was for building a dental practice. When people look at you as a leader, as an educator, as somebody who's at the forefront of their profession, your practice really grows by leaps and bounds. And so, in order to make those claims, you literally have to perform as well. And so, I really worked and worked and worked to be the best dentist I could be, to be as educated and as skilled as possible. And at the same time, she worked to make sure that I was the dental expert that people would call on when they had questions about cosmetic dentistry or general dentistry or anything at all regarding dentistry. And I think, having both of those in place gave me the ability to really grow and grow and grow. And once we got to a point, especially with my company, Discus Dental, which you mentioned, where we were earning, quite a bit of money, we were able to give back and to help our community. So that is what I would hope would be my legacy.
I think that's fantastic. And I think that leads me to my next question. And Startup Grind is a bunch of entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors. A lot of young people, a lot of older people looking to create startups, whether it's in the tech industry, whether it's selling products or services. And I think the reason why I wanted to bring you on is obviously to speak a bit about Discus Dental. And I think a lot of people that perhaps don't know that you actually did Discus Dental, they just see you as this amazing cosmetic dentist. Can you basically take us through and tell us about Discus Dental, how it started, and where it actually ended up?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do today is to say to people, hey, I invented Zoom. And they're like in shock. And then I let them down and say, well, Zoom tooth whitening. But it was still pretty good. Discus Dental was one of these things. And, later on in this, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about LEAP. But LEAP is a motivational leadership program that we put on every summer. It's a nonprofit for high school and college kids where we teach them the skills to be successful in life. And we have been so incredibly fortunate to get amazing speakers. I mean, I would say there isn't a single high-profile business person or celebrity in my practice that I've asked to speak that said no. From Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Hopkins, Richard Branson is speaking for us this year, Kathy Bates, Eva Longoria, Paula Abdul, Michael Strahan, Apollo Ono. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. But it's really a phenomenal experience for these young students. And I would say of all the things that we teach at LEAP, if there's two things that I want my students to walk away from LEAP with, it's this. Number one, don't wait for opportunities in life, make them. If I meet another millennial who tells me that they're waiting for the universe to show them something, I think I'll scream and pull my hair out. The universe is super busy right now. And guess what? It doesn't care about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's supposed to happen doesn't just happen. You need to make it happen. Nothing's going to fall in your lap. Okay. And number two, when you do get an opportunity, Michael, don't take it. Master it.
That's right. Yeah.
And there's a big difference. And let me tell you, I'll just use myself as an example. When ABC gave me the opportunity to be on its very first big reality TV show, Extreme Makeover, I stunk on TV. I was horrid. If you watch the first 2 or 3 episodes, they literally should have fired me. But at least I was smart enough to realize how bad I was, and I was proactive. I took acting classes, hosting classes, teleprompting classes. I hired Rainey Warren Black, the woman who worked with all the kids on American Idol, to teach me how to interview, to teach me how to talk on camera, to teach me how to do an OTF. When you're watching reality TV and like The Bachelor, and you know they're asking these men or these women questions, that's called an OTF. It's an on-the-fly interview. And a lot of them just get tongue-tied, as did I. But you know, if you practice and practice and practice, you know, and don't think practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Practice and practice and practice with guidance, you can probably get good at almost anything.
Yeah, I think, geez, I mean, I think, and that's why, I mean, for the audience that's listening, I was lucky enough to be a mentor this year at the Leap Foundation, and what Dr. Bill is talking about exudes there in volumes, and I really enjoyed the day with these young students and these young college students, and I learned a lot, and I think I learned a lot from you that day and the various communications that you and I have had. So by talking now, it does sound like you have so many things, or you've always had so many things going on, the Leap Foundation, your dental practice, Discus Dental. And I think a lot of people that are dealing with one startup or one company, they're trying to figure out how does one do so many things and be so good at it. Can you explain like how you manage that balance whilst doing your dental practice and pursuing these entrepreneurial journeys? Like, what kind of characteristics do you possess that you feel like other people that need to succeed in the same way need to adopt?
You know, I never really finished your first question, which will lead into this. You said, how did Discus start? So let me start from there and kind of carry this through. I'll tell you how Discus started. In the late 1980s, you weren't even born yet, tooth whitening started to blossom. And I saw a real future there. And the initial whitening products were not great. They weren't packaged well. There was no flavoring. It tastes like bad. I mean, there were a lot of things that could have been improved. But nevertheless, you know, I used what was there because that was all that was on the market. One day I got a phone call from the company. It was called White and Bright, Omni. And the product was called White and Bright. And they said, you know, Dr. Bill, you sell more tooth whitening product than any other dentist in the country. What are you doing to move so much product? And it's funny because at that same time, I said, you know, before I get into that, can we talk about the product? Because I have a lot of ideas that I think would really make the product better. And they're like, no, you're 28. You know nothing. We don't care what you have to say. We just want to know, you know, how are you selling the product?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit insulting. And I didn't even want them to pay me. Like, I just wanted to volunteer all this information. And they had zero interest. So I fortuitously ran into a fellow at a charity event. And it's weird, Michael, because almost every time in my life that I've really committed to doing something philanthropically, something amazing has happened from it. And don't say it's the universe. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was at this charity event and I met Robert Heyman, who who became my best friend then and has remained one of my best friends in life. And Robert was from Fred Heyman's family, and Fred Heyman was the creator of Giorgio Cosmetics. In fact, Fred Heyman created Beverly Hills. He had a very popular store in Beverly Hills, which was his. He created the fragrance 273. And Robert grew up in the cosmetic industry, and he was an MBA from Boston. And so he knew marketing and manufacturing. I knew dentistry and marketing. And together we sat down and I said, look, I think there's space in this market for a really novel whitening product. And the idea was to market it like a cosmetic, not a medical product. You know what? The original product we were paying, this is back in 1989. People were paying $800 to get their teeth whitened. And the kit came in a plastic bag with like, it wasn't even Xeroxed instructions. It was the generation before Xerox. It was this really crummy paper that the writing dissolved on. It was horrible, and it tastes disgusting. And we infused a sense of fashion into dentistry. We made our product look like a high-end cosmetic. We hired professional models to be on the box. We shot with professional photographers. We flavored the product. We made it as appealing a process and product as we could. And our product flew off the shelves. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. And the reason that Discus Dental became the success it became was because in 2003, ABC gave me the opportunity to be on Extreme Makeover. And all of a sudden now, something that had never happened in the dental world happened. We got to be on primetime TV and be shown in a positive light. Dentistry had never been in a positive light in the media. You had Little Shop of Horrors, Marathon Man, W.C. Fields. I mean, we were always the brunt of the joke or this horrific monster. And for the first time in history, I was on primetime TV every Thursday night showing people all of the beautiful things that we could do with cosmetic dentistry. And I got to highlight Zoom tooth whitening at the same time. And our sales exploded. We went, you know, from our inception, 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 16 million. We plateaued at 76 million. My first year on ABC's Extreme Makeover, we broke 101 million. The next year we did 136 million. And my third year on the show, we did almost $200 million in sales. And we grew that company, Discus Dental, Robert and I, from zero to $1.3 billion in sales before we sold it to Philips in 2010.
I mean, I think what I love about that is, like you said, dentistry perhaps wasn't seen as the sexy thing as other forms of the profession or outside of that would be perceived as. And I think I was going to ask you, what do you believe some of the keys to your overall success was? But I think you outlined them quite easily and quite definitively. So talking about Extreme Makeover, how were you cast for that? How did they find out about you? What made them choose you, do you believe?
You know, never underestimate the power of luck in anything.
Okay.
I mean, it was luck. You know, Howard Schultz created Extreme Makeover, not Starbucks Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz, who had a company called Lighthearted Entertainment. And he had done a show with one of the people on the show was a woman named Jennifer Fenton, who was a game show hostess. She happened to be my patient. She happened to also be an employee of Dr. Garth Fisher's part-time. She recommended Garth. They loved Garth. They put Garth on the show immediately. They asked Garth about me. She recommended me. Garth recommended me. So Lighthearted set up a meeting with me to see if I would be a good fit for the show. And so basically, we went into this blind. I had no idea what this was going to be like, but I interviewed Howard and Jackie Pittman, and I felt like these people really had their heart in the right place. And I knew they weren't going to exploit these patients. They were really going to help these patients. And I went for it. And, you know, at LEAP, I always tell students there will be life-defining moments. Well, one was me getting on Extreme Makeover. The second was my contract with Extreme Makeover. Every single person on that show got paid except me. The hairstylist, the makeup artists, the plastic surgeons, the weight trainers. I mean, you named it, they all got paid except me. Why? Well, in the pilot, all I did was Zoom whitening on 3 patients, and then the plastic surgeons did what they did. We got picked up for our first episode, 22 episodes for the first season. And in the very first episode of the first season, my patient needed 20 porcelain veneers, 10 uppers and 10 lowers. Well, at the time we were charging $1,500 a tooth, so that would be like $30,000. And I was told to give them an invoice before I started anything. So I did. And pretty much the second it hit the executive's desk, they freaked out and called me. Said, Dr. Bill, we never knew that dentistry was this expensive. I'm like, well, it is. I said, well, what do you want me to do? They said, well, can you just do 3 veneers? I'm like, 3? Like what, every other tooth? I'm like, no. I said, I can't just do 3. I said, no. And again, a life-defining moment, not planned, but I said, listen, I'll do all the dentistry for free under the following conditions. Number 1, I'm the only dentist. Because I didn't want them to have some like hack dentist on there that was going to do a bad job. People might think it's me. Number 2, you need to give my lab, Da Vinci, credit for every porcelain veneer I placed. That's where Da Vinci veneers became famous, because I didn't want to have a lab bill when I wasn't getting paid. I said, number 3, you need to highlight Zoom tooth whitening in every episode. That would never happen on reality TV today. No way. I mean, it's just, it's too much value. But, you know, who knew back then? And they figured they were getting a good deal because, you know, they didn't have to pay me. So that in and of itself, I think, is what really helped kind of fuel the fire for the growth in my company.
And I think, obviously, you're already a very well-known name in Hollywood, at least, and people term you as America's dentist or cosmetic dentist. But the question I have for you is, obviously, starting out, you start your first practice, if it was in Beverly Hills or Hollywood. How did you differentiate yourself from, because I'm sure there's hundreds of other dentists that are out there, and how did you become the definitive celebrity dentist? Because I would imagine not a lot of these celebrities trust any kind of dentist, but how does Dr. Bill go from leaving college, university, starting out on his own? How do you differentiate yourselves, and how did you actually become the #1 dentist? What did you do different to everyone else?
Well, first of all, having a publicist was key. Most dentists never think of that. And so she gave me an opportunity to get in front of people and really, you know, educate them. So that was one thing. And there were a lot of other things. When I first started practicing, I was dating a woman named Mary Margiotta, who worked at Triad. Triad is now William Morris. All these young people were just starting off. And so I got to meet all these people who are now running all these big talent agencies like CAA and William Morris and Endeavor and all of them. So I met them. We were all the same age, you know, and over the years, these people have not only become my patients, but have sent me a lot of their clients. And then, you know, once you start, you know, treating people in the entertainment industry, they're all friends too, you know. Jessica Simpson came in, and you know, And then she sent Nick Lachey in. And so, and I can say this without violating HIPAA because it was an episode on their show, The Newlyweds, right? So, you know, Jessica and Nick came in, and then Jessica pretty much referred me to every singer, you know, that she was friends with. Every one of them. They all came in and they brought in their husbands or wives or boyfriends or girlfriends. And, you know, it just kind of grew like that. My mantra for my practice is when you walk into my office, I don't want to just do what you expect. I want to exceed all your expectations. And that's what our goal was from day one. Exceed our patients' expectations. Do more. You know, it's crazy. When I go into a doctor's office as a patient, I'm so often disappointed because I just don't feel like they care like my office cares. If you came into my office as a patient and you had a really messed up mouth, I would be, you know, kind of the coach, and I would send you to the periodontist, the endodontist, every specialty, and I would oversee that process. And my office manager would basically schedule your appointments and keep tabs on, you know, what's going on. I would be responsible for you. You would never have to worry about your mouth because I would worry about it for you. And I've been in so many medical offices where I just felt like I was lost. Like nobody even knew, you know, or connected the dots. And so I think that when you give people gold-plated customer service and they know how committed you are to them and to their comfort and to their desires, especially when it comes to cosmetic dentistry, you can't go wrong.
Okay. No, I love that. I love that. And what I did want to touch on, and you also mentioned it already, is that let's speak about the LEAP Foundation and what it's all about. How did you get involved in that? Where does your passion for that come from? And what are you currently doing? And where do you see LEAP Foundation going in the next couple of years?
You know, LEAP is a motivational leadership program for high school and college students. And, you know, it started with me being a mentor for a program that was a precursor for LEAP. What a mentor is there was a program like LEAP, and they would ask me to come every year and just talk about my career as a dentist because it was so different from most other dentist careers. And the founder of that program was in his 80s and passed away. And I thought, you know, this is too great a program to vanish. You know, students need a program like this. So I linked up with his partner, who's more my age, and we created LEAP as a whole new entity and kind of did like LEAP on steroids. I mean, it was like their program was the base, but we added so many really cool elements to it. And I think the reason I love LEAP so much is I get to physically watch these students flourish. I get to see them grow and go out and start businesses and meet their husbands or wives or partners and start families. I just got an ultrasound today from one of my LEAP students who's having her first baby. And, you know, it's such a beautiful thing. And, you know, the thing I love about it too is these students are so appreciative. You know, one of the things we teach at LEAP is appreciation. And we give them this pad of notes called I Appreciate Notes. And students will often, not often, pretty much almost always say, Dr. Bill, LEAP changed my life. And I know it did. You know, we give them the tools that they need to be incredibly successful. And these aren't things that you typically learn in school.
I think one of the things I loved most about it was also the kind of individuals you had brought on board as mentors. And I know you've had some very famous celebrities and successful entrepreneurs come on as mentors. And I think it's testament to what you're actually trying to develop with these young individuals, bringing these renowned, successful people on board. And whilst I was at the LEAP Foundation a few weeks ago, I was there when you received that that glass microphone that's just peering over your shoulder there. Let's. I was actually very happy to be there. It was quite surreal to see you getting that award. Let's just tell the audience a bit about what that microphone actually stands for and why you actually received that. Then I have a few more questions before we go into the Q&A. So just everyone that's listening now and in the audience, if you have any questions, please shoot them through in the chat and I can ask Dr. Bull after we are done here.
So because I've had the good fortune of interviewing all of these amazing, celebrities and businessmen and women, I started a podcast called Meet the Mentor. And this is the podcast. And I just found out recently that we are in the top 2% of all podcasts worldwide, which is crazy because we've never promoted this or marketed this at all. And then at Leap, I was given this award that you see behind me because my podcast is in the top 100 podcasts in over 120 different countries. And that almost never happens. So it's actually been pretty amazing. And, I got to interview you, Michael. I'll put you up there with Anthony Hopkins and Mark Wahlberg and Eva Longoria and Usher and Michael Strahan and all these others. They're right up there with you, Michael.
Again, I was incredibly grateful for that. And for anyone listening, I think it's worth giving a listen or following the podcast on the various platforms. There's some really renowned people that Dr. Bull interviews, and you can draw a lot of inspiration from that. So we're not just hear you talking everything that you've done. It seems like everything you touch goes to gold. And I mean, I wouldn't imagine that some things are not as easy as they perceive or meet the eye. So obviously, being an entrepreneur myself and being an incredibly ambitious person, trying to break the next barriers in business and trying to become a successful entrepreneur. Can you tell me about what the next steps for you? What other business pursuits are you currently following or working on now that we can share with the audience?
Well, I mean, there's two big things that are going to come out hopefully before year end. When I sold Discus Dental, I had to sign a non-compete with Philips. That's expired. And so we're going to be launching a new tooth whitening product. And I'm working with a company called Great Health Works. They are huge in the infomercial market. And we're hopefully going to launch by December this year. But it should be what we say, category killer in the over-the-counter tooth whitening. I think it'll be the most popular product on the market. It's super easy to use, really effective, zero sensitivity, and it's just tested like off the charts. So the name of this product will be Poof, P-O-O-O-F. So just keep your eyes peeled and hopefully you'll use Poof.
So, I mean, obviously having established Discus Dental and Zoom Whitening, now you're drawing a lot of inspiration and I would imagine a lot of learnings from that initial company. What is like a key learning or something that you've taken forward from that company that you might not want to replicate again, or something that really worked well there that you're introducing in this new venture?
I mean, I would say the thing that I would replicate again is the thing that set us apart from all the other tooth white. Look at when we were in the tooth whitening business, we were competing with Crest and Colgate. I mean, these are billion-dollar companies, and we beat them every time. And you know how we beat them, Michael?
Tell me.
We were nimble. We were fast. Okay. You know, when you're in a big company like Crest and you want to change anything, it goes through committee after committee after committee. We could change something like in a heartbeat. And so we kept getting market share because we would see where the problems were and easily and quickly correct it so we could capture more market share. So that's one thing that I would definitely want to copy and keep doing. You know, if you would say, you know, what's something you don't want to do? I mean, what I don't want to do, I don't want to own another huge company. So the way that we're going to be able to do this will be perfect for me, because Great Healthworks will be the company, and I'll basically be the inventor and spokesperson. So I'm super excited about how this is going to go.
No, and I look forward to that. I'm quite excited to see how that progresses. And I think you touched on something that a lot of people in the audience, or that will be listening to this later on, could actually relate to, especially with the startup. As you grow, it can become quite bureaucratic, where like a lot of famous people, a lot of famous successful entrepreneurs will say, you need to fail fast, you need to fail forward. And you spoke about that, just iterating and making changes and not dwelling on something without moving quite fast. And I do know, having worked for a Fortune 500 company myself and having my own startups, the bureaucracy in these large companies can stifle innovation, as well as your ability to get to market faster and actually differentiate yourself from your competition. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's valuable learning.
Not only that, I'll tell you something, and maybe I'm just old school.
Yeah.
But do you know what the hardest part of business today is?
I can mention a lot of things, but I would love to hear your
No, by far, like heads and tails above everything else. Not even close.
Yeah.
The hardest part of business today are employees.
Okay.
It's so incredibly frustrating and challenging to have employees today. Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. For instance, if you were my employee and you walked in and you were wearing a new shirt, legally, I can't say, hey, Michael, I love your new shirt. That's awesome. Or you look handsome, and that's illegal.
Yeah.
How the hell is that illegal?
Yeah.
I mean, there are companies, my friend works at Target. People need to wear name tags with their pronouns on it. So I'm farsighted. I can't read. Like, I have to literally get up and look in your chest to see if I can call you him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that anymore. It's gotten crazy. It's literally gotten crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is something that is often overlooked. And I mean, by all means, we respect that part of the society. But yeah, I would tend to agree that some things have become somewhat. I think people have also become naive to what they're actually trying to show there. So, I mean, that's interesting. I've actually never heard of someone saying that, so I'm glad you did. So, coming to the end of the questions, there's one question that I did want to ask you. And
well, wait, you know what I want to tell you? This is really funny.
Okay.
When I started Discus Dental, okay, we worked in the 90s. It was a beautiful work environment. We were all young. We were all in our 20s and 30s. We were friends with our employees. We had parties with them. We went out with them. We created big companies parties where, people would bring their friends. I mean, it was a really tight-knit community of people. You can't do that anymore in businesses. You can't be friends with your employees. I can't tell a woman who walks in my office, wow, you look pretty today. Like, you can't do that. That's against the law. I'm afraid to talk to employees. I just don't anymore. It's so sad. We have like an HR department that tells us what we can and can't say to people. I don't like that kind of business. It's maybe it's okay for some people, but for me, it really kills a lot of the spirit that you used to have at work.
And do you believe that will stifle the success or progression of some organizations starting out now in this generation?
I don't know. I just don't like it. It's not my style. I like to walk in and be genuine. I'm a hugger. I can't hug my employees anymore. I can't. In the old days, we did. I don't know. I don't think it's better. I think it's worse. I really do. And I hope that they can balance it and find a happy medium, because I really don't like what's happening to the workplace in America anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's not only in America, but I think a lot of people that have their own businesses could probably relate to you, and maybe have a different opinion on that. But that's what this is all about, is varied opinions. So when you look back on your career, and I wouldn't imagine you would, but is there anything that you would change? Any one thing?
I mean, look, we all make mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. There's a few things. I mean, I did a deal with with a company in China where they manufactured product for me, and they did not make it properly, and I didn't have the right insurances, and I literally lost almost $2.5 million on product that they delivered to me that was faulty, and I'll never recoup that money. You know, they don't want to take responsibility for it. I didn't have the right insurance on it. I didn't know that at the last minute that it was being manufactured by a company I didn't approve of. I had been working with another company. The person in China who was working with me just switched companies, and I ended up losing a fortune on that. So, would I have changed that? Yes. I wish I had known. I would have never let that happen.
No, that's great. And we have a question from someone here in the audience that they're thanking you, first of all, for being here. And Amena is basically saying, thank you for your honesty and for your insight. And there's a question that someone just messaged me now, and they basically said, and you've basically touched on it now, what words of wisdom or advice would you give to someone starting out as an entrepreneur and business that has massive dreams like you had? What core trait or belief do you believe that an individual needs to have in order to become successful when starting out a business?
2 words. 2 words. Copy genius.
All right.
If you want to form a business in whatever it is, look at businesses that are already out there, that are successful and that are not successful. Learn what the successful ones are doing and what the unsuccessful ones are doing, so you don't do that.
Yeah.
And do it better. Copy genius. Look at when I got out of dental school and I came to Beverly Hills, the last thing they needed was another cosmetic dentist. What did I do? I found the 5 most successful cosmetic dentists. I called them up and I asked if I could come in and shadow them. And I looked at every single thing that those offices were doing. And I took the best part of everything that they did and put it all in one practice. And by the end of almost a year in practice, I was busier than any of them.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I mean, for me as an entrepreneur, that's something I'm going to take away from this. That's actually incredible. So Amena actually followed up with another question saying, do you have any advice on how to take a product from a benchtop to creating samples that can be tested in the market? So essentially taking a product from ideation to market.
Well, that's a hard question to answer because it depends. Is it a medical product? Is it a cosmetic? Is it a gadget? Is it, I mean, because you would do these in a lot of different ways. So, again, what I would say is, depending on what category this falls into, look and see what other products out there have done and do the same thing. Whenever I develop, like you asked me about, future ventures. So Poof is coming out. I also created a new gum, which I told you about, which is a caffeinated chewing gum. And how do I know this is going to be a big hit? Because I've given it to probably 50 to 60 of my friends and they love it, So if it's a consumer product like that you can actually give to friends and relatives and whatnot, do it.
Okay, I mean, I'm excited for the caffeinated gum. I didn't want to mention it until you mentioned it, and I think that's something that's going to change the game. And I think that's something that will be the next big thing in that category. So they did reply, and they said basically a new toothpaste flavor. So basically, what you were talking about now, how do you take a new toothpaste flavor from ideation to market?
So I don't want to like burst anybody's bubble.
Yeah.
But there is nothing you can do with the flavor of a toothpaste that's going to make it a category killer. Okay. Nothing. I mean, look at who you're competing against. Colgate, Crest, Procter. I mean, you're competing against multi-billion-dollar companies, and you can't patent flavor. So if you have something that's so good that everybody's going to buy it, they'll just knock it off.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't even invest a penny in that.
So, I mean, yeah, thank you for asking those questions. And I hope you got something from that. And I think I appreciate Dr. Bill's honesty because he's been there, he's done that. And before we end off, there is one more question. It's more of a question that has a bit of humor. If you were to be able to have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
Ooh, wow. If I could have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? I've been on her show, and I still am so starstruck by Oprah. I think she is such a force to be reckoned with. And I have so much admiration and respect for her. I mean, I felt so fortunate to get to meet her and be on her show. But if I could have lunch with her, I would do that in a heartbeat. I love Oprah.
I'm sure you and millions of other people. And I think
it probably isn't the most macho answer. You might expect like John Glenn or Neil Armstrong or I don't know, JFK or something. But man, she is such a dynamo.
No, that's fantastic. And I mean, I think I love asking people that question myself, and I'm glad someone requested that. So having said that, we've come to the end. And before I let you go, I just want to thank you again for your time, for your energy, for your insights, and quite honestly, just your pure honesty. I think a lot of people will take a lot of inspiration from this, from your success. And I mean, it's quite clear that age is not slowing you down. You continuously keep breaking the barriers. And I'm really lucky to know you and have met you and built a relationship with you. And I'm grateful to have you on the chapter to come share your life story with us.
Well, Michael, I appreciate it. And if any of your listeners are 15 to 25 or have kids that are 15 to 25, please look at the LEAP Foundation. Just go to leapfoundation.com and you can register there. Our programs are every summer. It's usually the last week of August, so it won't be till next year. If you'd like to listen to some of the amazing speakers that have been at LEAP, please join my podcast, Meet the Mentor by Dr. Bill Dorfman. And if any of you want to get in touch with me personally, the best is Instagram. Just go to Dr. Bill Dorfman, DRBILL Dorfman. I think I'm probably the only person with 1.3 million followers who actually answers all of my own DMs. I do. It won't be, some random person. It will actually be me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. And in saying that, thank you, startup community. And as our values go, make friends, not contacts. And having said that, look out for the next event. And yeah, super excited for what the future holds for you and for the Startup Grind community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Take care.